Hey, everybody, and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not News, your favorite podcast about fake news. I'm Beth.
And I'm Elizabeth.
What? Where's Kelly?
Hey, I killed her.
What?
She's dead.
Oh, shit. No, Kelly is in Ireland. We let her take a vacation. And Elizabeth so graciously agreed to come back for this episode.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, anytime. You are always welcome. So we are so happy you're here. And actually, this is a really good week for you and I to reunite because...
Big time.
Because I feel like a bridge has been crossed, Elizabeth. This is a big deal. Something happened in the world of fake news. Something good happened in the world of fake news. So, Alex Jones has been kicked off of YouTube, Facebook, all Apple apps, like Apple, Google, Stitcher podcasts, Spotify.
Oh, I hadn't heard about Stitcher.
And then today, even Vimeo kicked him off. Yeah. So can we get a Yahoo?
Did they kick him off? No.
I'm not sure if they have a platform to kick him off from that he broadcasts from.
You know what makes me feel old? I'm so glad. This makes me feel old. I'm so glad that you're the one who said that he was kicked off of Vimeo, because I read that and I thought, shit, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Right? I don't know either. That could be totally wrong. I was just taking a stab in the dark.
Okay, yeah, well then that's all you if it's mispronounced. I knew how to pronounce it. Beth didn't. She's the one who said it wrong.
Oh, well, what is it? Irregardless or regardless of how you pronounce Vimeo.
Oh, Beth.
That's one of those words.
Irregardless, I literally mispronounced Vimeo.
That's one of those words that always pops up on those lists where they're like, words you say wrong. And you're an idiot. You didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right. Irregardless. Okay, so I wanted to do a little dive into who is Alex Jones? Who is Alex Jones? Let's talk about him a little bit and see why he is so freaking dangerous. So he is an American radio show host and conspiracy theorist, but a title, and this is from Wikipedia. He's been the center of many controversies. He runs a website, Infowars.com, which is devoted to conspiracy theories and fake news. And he has had several issues. So he's accused the U.S. of being involved in the Oklahoma City bombing, the September 11 attacks, the filming of the fake moon landings. He's also claimed that several government businesses have colluded to create a new world order through manufactured economic crisis, sophisticated surveillance tech, and above all, inside job terror attacks that fuel exploitable hysteria. He sounds fun, right? So New York Magazine describes him as America's leading conspiracy theorist, and the Southern Poverty Law Center describes him as the most prolific conspiracy theorist in contemporary America.
I believe that. That sounds right about spot on.
So I want to talk a little bit about how he began his career. So he started out in Austin on like a live call-in format public access cable television show. And then in 1996, he switched to radio. And he had this show that like Ron Paul was on a whole bunch when he was running for Congress. Yay.
I just have to back up and just comment on how interesting Austin public access TV probably was. Because, this was like back in the day, right?
It was like 95. So like, where were you? Were you there?
Well, no, I wasn't in Austin.
Right, but were you in the Texas area?
I was in Houston. Yeah. But you just think like, you're like probably high or something because it's Austin, and you're just like channel surfing and you don't have cable. And you're just like watching public access and here's Alex fucking Jones.
Right. But at the time, nobody knew who Alex fucking Jones was.
No, he was just like some lunatic who had a cable show. And there's another show that used to be on Austin Public Access for like 20 years called The Atheist Experience, that's run by the Austin Atheist Association, something to that effect. That's their name. And they host this show and people call in and argue with them.
Oh, nice. That sounds good.
Yeah. And so like, it just seems to me like this channel was just nuts, just all kinds of crazy things going on.
So that's probably where he started. Yeah. So in 1995, when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, he began accusing the government of being responsible. And then in 98, he released his first film, America Destroyed by Design. Also that year, he organized a successful effort to build a new Branch Davidian church as a memorial to those who died during the 1993 fire that ended the government siege of the original Branch Davidian complex near Waco, Texas. And he claimed that David Koresh and his followers were peaceful people who were murdered by Attorney General Janet Reno and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms during the siege. That sounds just very, very reasonable.
He's not the only one who says that. A lot of people have some very strange views.
Right. So he started out with maybe some more like benign conspiracy theories in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But, you know, over time. So in early 2000, he ran for state representative as a Republican candidate. But he was claiming that he was going to be the watchdog on the inside. But he withdrew from the race after a couple of weeks. Wonder why. Like maybe this campaign was like, yeah, you've got way too much shit in your closet.
Yeah.
Too
much even for the Republican Party in Texas. Even too much.
Even for them. So in 2001, his show was syndicated on approximately 100 stations. And then after the 9/11 attack, he began to speak of a conspiracy by the Bush administration as behind the attack, which caused a number of the stations that had previously carried him to drop his program. So this isn't the first time he's lost stuff that he had. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of interesting. In June of 2006, while on his way to cover a meeting of the Bilderberg Group, which I'm going to get into a little bit later here.
A Bilderberger group?
Not a Bilderberger.
Not like a Build-A-Bear?
Almost.
Is that like Whataburger? How like they don't make it until you order it?
Yes, you got it. That's what it is. But he was stopped and detained at the Ottawa airport by Canadian authorities. They confiscated his passport, camera equipment, and most of his belongings. I think Canada was onto something there. But he was allowed to enter lawfully. And he said on the record, I want to say it takes two to tango. I could have handled it better. So something happened and he flipped out. Imagine that.
Imagine Alex Jones flipping out over things.
So, he's been around for a long time. In 2016, following the RNC convention, he and Roger Stone began plotting the removal of Ted Cruz from his Senate seat after he failed to endorse Donald Trump as the Republican presidential candidate. Can I be okay with that? Is that okay? Like, if you're evil and you do something good, is it okay?
Well, but they were doing it because of evil reasons.
And they weren't successful.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's just a big evil stew that's churning and all the flavors are commingling. And it's just bad. This is not Strange Bedfellows.
So he used to sell like DVDs and stuff on his website of like him and everything like that. And that's how he made money. But now he sells supplements, and it's like 2/3 of his income. He sells dietary supplements, toothpaste, bulletproof vest, and brain peels.
Brain peel? Is that what you just said?
Brain pills. Sorry.
Oh, brain pills.
I was just
laughing
when I said
might
it.
As well.
So in August of 2017, a Californian medical company, Labdoor Incorporated, reported on tests applied to 6 of his dietary supplement products. They included a product named Survival Shield, which was found to only contain iodine, and a product named Oxy Powder, which was compromised of magnesium oxide and citric acid, and very common ingredients in dietary supplements. And they indicated there's no evidence of prohibited or harmful substances, but they cast doubt on InfoWars' marketing claims for these products and asserted that the quantity of the ingredients in certain products would be too low to be appropriately effective. So basically, it's just snake oil.
I am also going to go ahead and jump into one of the articles that I'm going to be talking about today to quote. They talk about these supplements. This is an article in Texas Monthly called Is Alex Jones' Empire in Trouble by Dan Solomon from April 20th of this year. And they say that some of these products, while they might actually like have things in them, like they don't speak to the minuscule quantities that you're talking about, but they're talking about how there's a 500% markup over the same product without the dramatic name sold on Amazon.
Gotcha.
So there's markup already for the people who are selling it on Amazon in a much less snazzy way. And then there's that, and he's marking it up by 500%.
That just sounds right for Alex Jones. So he's been very vocal about gun rights. Which side do you think he's on? Vaccines. Again, which side do you think he's on?
Yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, he's in June of 2017, Vox covered his claim that the introduction of the Sesame Street character Julia, an autistic Muppet, was designed to normalize autism, a disorder caused by vaccines. And on November 20th, 2017, the New Yorker quoted Jones as claiming InfoWars was defending people's rights to not be forcibly infected with vaccines. Think Progress has declared that he continues to endanger children by convincing their parents that vaccines are dangerous. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He also believes in weather weapons, and he has claimed that Hurricane Irma, which you may remember, may have been geoengineered. Remember geoengineering that we talked about?
I do. I remember that episode about the microwaves. Yeah.
He also frequently promotes the white genocide conspiracy theory. Media Matters covered his claim that NFL players protesting during the national anthem were kneeling to white genocide and violence against whites. And on October 2nd of 2017, Jones claimed that Democrats and communists were plotting imminent white genocide attacks. So anyway, he's been...
We talked about him on the Chobani, too.
Yes.
Now, he had to retract his statement about the Chobani.
So Alex Jones has long been in our eyesight of this is somebody who needs to go. And I'm really happy about what's happening.
Let's just talk a little bit about why he needs to go. Because there's so much content out there that we don't agree with. We don't agree with him, but you can also throw a rock on YouTube and hit 5 people who we don't agree with.
That's true.
Why does he need to go and they don't need to go?
Well, what do you think?
Well, I think that it's because he is violating the terms of service.
For YouTube? Yeah. So is it censorship? Let's jump over to the Snopes article. It's called, Is it censorship for platforms to delete InfoWars content? Not according to InfoWars. So this talks about how in early August 2018, tech companies such as Facebook, Apple, and Spotify, who control a good deal of online content distribution, announced that they're removing some or all of content produced by InfoWars from their platforms over violations of their policies regarding areas such as hate speech and bullying. So this is what it comes down to. It's hate speech and bullying. That is why he's getting removed. Okay.
And they have these things set up in their terms of service.
Right.
So that whenever you take things too far, they at least have that ability, should they choose to use it, to pull that. Because it's not helpful for society for people to be spreading false information. And they do, people like us have to get out there and podcast about it. And if you want us to stop people, you're just going to have to start telling the truth. If you want all of this to end. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on keeping on.
So he responded on Twitter because they're one of the people that haven't barred his content yet. And so some people jumped in right away to point out some things that censorship can only really be applied to government actions, and private companies are not obligated to provide platforms for free expression to everyone, and they may regulate their users' behavior, including speech as they see fit. And somebody pointed out that Infowars.com has on their site, it says, "You will not make threats to other users or people not associated with this site. If you violate these rules, your post and or username will be deleted. Remember, you are a guest here. It is not censorship if you violate the rules and your post is deleted. All civilizations have rules, and if you violate them, you can expect to be ostracized from the tribe," which is why the Snopes article is saying at the top in their headline that is it being deleted for censorship, not according to InfoWars, because in their own terms of service, they define it very clearly. So yeah, it's just kind of funny. So
yeah, these platforms, they want to be open places and they want to put themselves out there as being very First Amendment-y, like, come everyone with your views, we're all going to talk. And they just, when you get a variety of people, you get a variety of advertisers wanting access to those people's eyes and brains. So they don't want to shut people down. They don't want to shut them out. But at some point, you're inciting hate speech and you're going to be inciting violence, and you're going to get in a place like this.
So I watched this YouTube video, this video that Vox did about YouTube. And it talks about how it's not just Alex Jones. YouTube's most extreme creators are pushing the platform into a tough debate about censorship and the free speech on the internet. So apparently on YouTube, they call it YouTube Right. And it's like this group of vloggers, like you were saying, we could throw a stone on YouTube and hit 5 people that we disagree with. So one of them is called Laura Southern. And she is kind of at like the core of the ideas of a YouTube Right. Like she's against PC, like political correctness. She's against refugees. She doesn't like gay pride parades.
She sounds like loads of fun.
Yeah. She's like Tommy Lauren, but like on YouTube. So
when people say they are tired of having to be PC, I just hear, I want to be an asshole and I don't want you to call me out on it.
Yeah. So basically you want to be 3. You want to be a toddler.
But it's what it is it's actually like wanting to affect your behavior, because that's what it's about. It's about, I want to speak my mind freely and I don't want you to say anything about it, because that's the problem. That's the problem. Your problem is the behavior, or your behavior is the problem, not mine.
Yes. And I just want to say this. If you start any sentence with "I'm not racist, but," you are going to make a racist comment.
just get ready for what's
FYI,
coming.
if you find yourself saying that, you are being a racist. Okay. So here's the thing. So this is what Laura Southern says. She says that the left wing is available everywhere, but right wingers, you have to like find it.
You got to go all the way to Fox News on your dial. Right? You got to page all the way down.
But like basically her point is that the left gets to be just like out there. No, they get to say whatever they want, but the right wingers, they have to control it. They have to bring it in.
They probably
and now YouTube is fulfilling that need, because YouTubers can say things that they can't say on Fox News or the radio because they're scared of losing their shows. So in her opinion, Rush Limbaugh is holding back, but Rachel Maddow is letting it all fly, right? Like, this is their opinion. So it turns out that YouTube has become a breeding ground for bad stuff. And part of it is just their platform, because they are a click-based market. The advertisers on there aren't saying, I want to sponsor this YouTube channel. They're just saying, I want to advertise on YouTube, and YouTube decides where the ads go. Okay. And YouTubers have zero obligation to editorial content. None. So, and there's no FCC rules that apply to them. So they can literally say anything. So again, advertisers are usually the check, but with YouTube, it's different. So however, companies started to pull ads from YouTube and they started to say, hey, we don't like it that, we're being told by our customers that our ads are popping up before these like white nationalist rants. So YouTube went in and they demonetized a lot of right-wing content. And they basically said your ad now can't qualify for ads. But it's been really arbitrary. Some ads of Laura Southern's are demonetized and others aren't. So some she can still make money on and some she can't. And it's all just whether or not they've said that this one is hate speech and this one isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like creators versus advertisers at this point. And although it's definitely focused on the right wing, it's also helping to force YouTube to take some responsibility and change things to make it be how it wants to be. So, Elizabeth, did we have to have Alex Jones to get some reasonableness out of YouTube?
Yeah, I kind of think so. It's like his show has reached this critical mass where it's gone from being this fringe, weirdo, funny, ha ha, let me watch this when I'm high on Austin public access to millions of viewers. The man has the ear of the president. He's been on his show, called in, the whole thing is terrifying, really quite terrifying.
Yeah.
And he's dangerous. His ideas are dangerous.
Yeah.
And
so do you think YouTube was dangerous though before? Did we need this danger to come out to really show us how dangerous YouTube was?
Well, I don't think that, of course ideas are dangerous, right? You have to be challenged by ideas. It's good to hear different things and to understand why you oppose them, to be able to formulate your own ideas about things. So that we live in a bubble a lot of times on social media where you just hear the things that come from the media sources that you have self-selected. And then the algorithms help you self-select other media sources that are very similar. And next thing you know, it seems like everyone feels the same way that you do, right?
Right.
And you get all of this reinforcing data. And the problem is, so it's a good thing to have a diversity of opinion, of course, right? But when you get that Alex Joneses and the crazy like that, you start getting that stuff that's coming back to you. And you start ending up in an alternate reality of delusion. And what some of the things that I'm going to talk about with my article today have really, really negative impacts on people and their lives. And that is part of why Alex Jones is having these problems right now. It's not just ideas that someone, is going to, go off to college and, have some weird political ideas that are, maybe far right or far left, and their parents are going to get all upset and, they're not going to go to business school anymore. It's not people's lives are in jeopardy because of some of the things that he said. And that's what we're talking about.
So let's get into your articles. I'm interested to hear what you have for us.
Yeah. So I wanted to go a little bit further back than the past few weeks when he started getting pulled, because people have been saying gosh, it really seems like everything just happened all of a sudden. Just one day we woke up and Alex Jones wasn't on iTunes anymore.
Right.
And so, but we know that it's been percolating for a while. And so I wanted to kind of maybe go back a little bit and see. So,
just personally, I've had my Alex Jones voodoo doll that I stab with pins every night. I've had that for well over a year. So,
oh, I have mine and I feed it Super Supplement 12.
Nice.
It's wasting away.
Very nice.
So this article is called, "Is Alex Jones's Empire in Trouble?" What I told you about it earlier. I've already mentioned. So it talks about the supplements. It talks about how the tech companies are hesitant to stir things up, right? So if they start pulling lots of very popular content, he has millions of subscribers, that's going to bring up people's ire, and it's also going to not have eyes on this very popular content, which isn't good for them. Right. So it really needs to be something for them to pull the trigger. Right. And they talked about how YouTube, I didn't realize this, has a 3 strikes rule. And they had, now from my reading in this article, it seems like maybe something gets reported. I'm sure his videos get reported all the time, but like they have to determine that a video has hit a strike. Right. So at this point in April, he had 2 YouTube videos that had strikes. And those were accusing David Hogg, the Parkland student, of being a crisis actor. So those were flagged. And so at that point, he had the 2. And this article was saying, I don't know if there's ever going to give them a 3rd strike. Right. Because that's, so maybe just having that threat out there might draw him back just a little bit. So that might have been a card that they were playing in the spring. So that's kind of interesting to think about that. But they talk about what was changing back in the spring was that he was being sued. Yeah. And we know that he was going through a divorce that had some interesting things going on around that, where they were talking about kind of like that he was like a performance artist. Right.
He's a character.
Yeah.
And when he's in character, you can't believe what he's saying. You can't take that as like truth for who he is outside of work.
Yeah, I'm sure his wife wanted custody.
Right.
Said, look, seriously, people, look.
Right.
But yeah, so he was sued by 2 sets of Sandy Hook parents, Leonard Posner and Veronique De La Rosa, the parents of 6-year-old boy named Noah, and Neil Heslin, the father of a 6-year-old named Jesse. And they filed suit against Jones, alleging defamation for his insistence that the parents were lying about what happened to their children, and his claims that the media faked elements of its coverage with their participation.
Right. And those trials are ongoing.
Yeah. And the things that he alleged is just, it makes me sick.
Yeah.
Just to read it. And about how Neil Heslin talked about how he held his son's body with this bullet wound in his head, like his child. And Alex Jones is saying that, well, from what I heard, they never let them see the bodies. So that's how these guys are lying.
Right. And I think actually Kelly and I were just talking about that in maybe one of the last episodes, where they did use they covered, the bodies were so destroyed by the bullets that they did show, like they took close-ups of the faces to show the parents, so that, and I didn't fact check that, so I don't know if that was not true or not, like off the top of my head now. It sounded right, and I know Kelly has done a ton of research on that, so maybe that's where that came from. I read something where he was saying that it was because Anderson Cooper's nose kept disappearing on a digital thing.
So that's the other family. So back to Mr. Heslin, when he said that I held my son with that bullet hole through his head, an InfoWars staffer claimed that he lied. And that, like we talked about with the photos. And it says, according to the New York Times, yes, Jones said, the stuff I found, they never let them see the bodies. And they say in Texas Monthly here, that's not true. The initial identifications were made by photographs, but the bodies were then released to the families for funerals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And so the other set of parents, there was a YouTube video under the title Sandy Hook Vampires Exposed, where Jones claims that a CNN clip of De La Rosa talking with Anderson Cooper in downtown Newton was fake, insisting that an effect that appears on Cooper's nose proves that the interview was taped in front of a green screen, and that CNN explained that it was a common compression artifact, which happens often in video encoding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about the De La Rosa and the CNN is that these people were doxxed, right? Like they
Yes.
had their information put out there. And because of the inciting, like we talked about earlier, that Jones does, they started getting
Yes.
death threats at their house, and their lives
Right.
were in danger because of the
And-
lies that he
And I just want to clarify
perpetrates.
that the parents
he
of the
does-
dead children who were killed in a school shooting were now getting death threat because of Alex fucking Jones.
Yeah.
Just to clarify
Yeah.
that connection there.
Mm-hmm. And so this article goes on to talk about, how this could really be trouble for Jones as these lawsuits go on. And under the law, the plaintiffs would be entitled to punitive damages if they're able to prove that Jones acted with actual malice, okay, or he's exercising a reckless disregard for the truth. And so his history of making conflicting claims, it says, about the Sandy Hook shooting could put him in jeopardy. He says, what I understand, this is quoting a lawyer, by the way, at UT Austin, says, what I understand is that he'll say these things at one point, and then later on he'll say, of course I know that wasn't true. And if he says things and then he knows that isn't true, he's in trouble. So he really wants to have it both ways.
Yes.
And for so long, he's been able to do that. And then also, just really quick, there's this other third lawsuit, which is coming out by a Houston man who was misidentified by Jones as the Parkland shooter. And is also having similar problems with, like, dude, it's not me. Like, all these people are sending me threats. And because of you, I'm just a dude.
Yes.
In Houston.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so that's back from April. So what's the temperature now? What is Texas Monthly saying now?
Texas Monthly has an article that is July 31st. By the way, I love Texas Monthly.
Oh, do you?
I get a print subscription from Texas Monthly. It's awesome. Anyway, Alex Jones's attorneys argue that no reasonable person would believe what he says.
The thing is, though,
also by Dan Solomon.
How many people do believe what he says? This is the problem. Although they did use the word reasonable. So, yes, there's that caveat. So what does that article say?
Well, one of the things it's talking about is going back to this Sandy Hook Vampires Exposed video, what happened to that family as a result of that. This talks a little bit more in depth about the personal harm, the peril that they have been in. It says the family's argument hinges on the fact that last June, a woman named Lucy Richards was sentenced to 5 months in prison for sending threats to Ponzer and De La Rosa, accusing them of participating in a hoax and threatening their lives for it. In that case, the court found that Jones and InfoWars so influenced Richards' thinking on the matter that, according to documents filed by plaintiff's attorney Mark Bankston and obtained by Texas Monthly, the terms of her sentence also include that after her release, Richards would be prohibited from viewing InfoWars programming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How do you enforce that?
It's a really good well,
just curious.
I guess you could get some help by some of your friends at Apple and Facebook.
Right? Oh my gosh. Oh, so are you ready to hear how this happened? How Apple and Facebook and everybody said no more, Alex Jones, no more?
Yes.
So I have this Salon article, and it's called Meet Jared Holt, the guy who's getting Alex Jones kicked off the internet. And this is by Amanda Marcotte, and it was from August 8th of 2018. And it talks about how Alex Jones has been banned in rapid succession from a variety of platforms, including Apple, YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. And it says, to many casual news consumers, the purge seems sudden, but, we know better, don't we? So she says the timing isn't random. In recent weeks, a group of progressive activists has dialed up efforts to pressure these distribution platforms to drop InfoWars. That pressure, which comes at a time when court proceedings against Jones have finally begun in earnest, created the momentum that led to this decision. This has been mentioned in passing in much of the coverage, but these folks deserve much more credit and recognition for the work they've been doing in trying to fight right-wing disinformation campaigns. Are these people superheroes?
Yes.
I think maybe they are. So Salon spoke with Jared Holt, who's a researcher from a group called Right Wing Watch, which is a project of People for the American Way. And
love Right Wing Watch.
It seems really good.
They're the best.
Yeah, liking it. So his work has been instrumental in getting social media and other internet platforms to give InfoWars the boot. And they interviewed him, and he had some interesting things to say. So he first spearheaded the effort to kick Alex Jones off of Spotify. And he said, yeah, people were upset and threatened. Like he brought it to the attention of the progressive group Sleeping Giants, who brought it to national attention. So he tweeted it. Sleeping Giants picked it up to get national. People were upset, threatened to boycott Spotify, and Spotify responded. So this is kind of funny. This made me laugh. They asked him, why did you decide to target Spotify? And he said, I'm not sure it was really a calculated effort. I use Spotify to listen to my music while I work. I noticed they had a podcast section. FYI, we're on there. So I was looking through that. When I found InfoWars, I was surprised, mostly because of my own experience as someone who has a podcast, aside from my work with Right Wing Watch, and I experienced a personal struggle to get Spotify to list my own podcast. So he said, I guess I was a little bit offended that Alex Jones was able to get on the air and I wasn't, which made me laugh because Spotify does kind of have some different rules and you have to apply to get on there. I had actually applied to get us on there. And then at the same time, our podcast host did a deal with them that anybody who's hosted by Lipson, who's our podcast host, can be on Spotify. So
maybe that's how Alex Jones got on there.
Oh God, if he's on Lipson, I'm going to be upset. But that's how, I don't know if we would have been approved or not, because they kind of happened simultaneously. It was I applied and then it was oh, you get to be on Spotify because you're on Lipson. So it kind of made me chuckle that that's what led to it, is this guy's a podcast and Spotify wouldn't approve it, but they approved Alex Jones. So basically he said, it's a snowball effect that took place after that happened, they asked him, what was the tipping point? And he said for a long time, people have been frustrated, particularly with Facebook and YouTube hosting InfoWars. These sites nearly broke their backs to come up with reasons why InfoWars should be exempt from the same user policy enacted on everybody else that uses the platform.
The real reason cannot be number of viewers. We have to come up with something else.
So, and he says he thinks Facebook was just afraid to take action. He says, ever since the internet began, there's been the existential question over how much responsibility platforms have for the content that its users generate. And he said the internet started as a radical experiment in free speech. And I think early on, we saw the benefits of that more clearly. I'm thinking back to events like the Arab Spring and that sort of stuff to see what a free and open internet could do for democracy at large and on the world stage. But over the past couple of years, we've experienced the negative effects, and we were spoiled by the good before we saw the ugly. And I think because of that, there is that fear, not just at Facebook, but with other tech companies as well, that restricting pages gets attention. They would also be subject to backlash from millions of people who keep up with InfoWars and support InfoWars.
Mm-hmm.
So he also asked him, why is it so important to go after these guys? And he says, it's in the name of InfoWars. It's not an attempt at legitimate reporting. It's a, quote, war for your mind. And I think that's very true. So,
yeah.
Anyway, it just, he talks about the Sandy Hook lawsuit and how that plays into this and how that's been ongoing for a while. And these networks didn't seem to really care. But he said that I do imagine the fact that Alex Jones is being sued in court for things he said and transmitted through their platforms adds to the outrage that users and activists are feeling. So then they asked him, how does it feel after all this work that you've been doing to finally see Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, and all these places finally turn on InfoWars? And, he said it's reassuring to see them finally take action. I think it's a little unfortunate that it took a public outrage campaign to do it, but ultimately it's a step in the right direction. I hope these platforms realize that the problem is bigger than InfoWars and that users are counting on them to follow through the promises they made to counter this kind of misinformation. Personally, I have to say, I felt like a little bit of a failure because I didn't get Alex Jones taken down. And I so wanted to be the one to do it, but I'm so glad somebody else did. Thank God, right?
You thought you personally, like our Chobani episode?
Yes,
Yeah.
This is me. I'm saying, like, I feel a little bit like a failure because I didn't do enough personally to, like, start this revolution to, like, get Alex Jones taken down. And this guy did. And then I have to stop myself and be like, who fucking cares who did it? It's done. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can't save the world, huh? I could just do one podcast episode at a time. And you have done your podcast episode on him. And now we're doing another one.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I just want to go over to InfoWars for a moment.
Well, I'll meet you when you come back.
Okay. So do you think that Alex Jones is going to take this and, like, just run away and bury his head in the sand and we'll never hear from him again?
I'm thinking probably not. That doesn't sound like his MO.
So I watched a video on InfoWars and my computer is, like, I think puking because it won't let me see this anymore. But I took some notes. But I watched this video and on the side, it was very clear right away there's, like, an advertisement. So here's how they're combating it. They have developed an app for you to download, a free app for InfoWars, so that you can now get the content through this free app, which ironically is hosted by Apple and Google. So I don't know how that works.
No.
But yeah, you can get it on Apple or Google Play. And it's the free app for InfoWars.
So seriously, they didn't have an app before all this?
I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's like, now get your free app. And they're super pushing it. So
how do you not have an app?
Well, maybe he did, but maybe they weren't pushing it as much. So,
oh, okay. Gotcha.
So they did this video that I watched, and it's like basically like all of Alex Jones' accomplishments is what they start with. So this is what they say. He predicted 9/11. He exposed the world leaders in an occult. That one I had to listen to a couple times, and I seriously was like, I just had to write it down that way because they were talking about something specific, and I just don't know what the fuck they were talking about.
Wait. So do they have, like, this is the clip where he predicts this?
Yes.
Okay, so you can go back and you can listen to where he predicts 9/11.
Yes.
What does he say?
That's what it sounded like to me.
Is it like if I have a million monkeys on typewriters typing endlessly throughout eternity, one of them is eventually going to produce Hamlet?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, if Alex Jones just, like, talks, isn't it a show like 4 hours or something? It's
I
like
don't
Russian
know.
Flowers and like that. He's just blah, 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 blah. If he just, like, talks about the deep state long enough, you're going to, like, string together words.
Yeah.
Might, in retrospect, seem like, or no, it's like, what is the guy's name? It begins with an N. Nostradamus.
Yes. Yep. It's exactly
who
like
also predicted 9/11.
So, and I do have to say, Nostradamus was before Alex Jones. So Alex Jones was just trying to steal his thunder. Okay. Alex Jones' accomplishments continued. He talks about the relationship between the Third Reich and modern globalism. He helped reveal the so-called Bilderberg Group. And yes, that one, Bilderberger. He is the loudest voice about the union between communist China and Silicon Valley. Now, those are his big accomplishments. Now, what has been done against him? He's been falsely edited by NBC. They showed a clip of his, like, Megyn Kelly interview.
Oh, yeah.
They lie about his reporting of Sandy Hook.
His reporting? He's a reporter?
That's what it says. There's a lie that he pushed a child down in a viral video that wasn't even of him. And now he is being deplatformed by Facebook, Apple, and Google. And private companies are being harassed and told not to associate with him. And some Americans are actually celebrating this. Will you sit by and allow liberty and freedom to be taken away right before your eyes? Discover the truth. There was some more in there. And then at the end it says, if you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance, which I think is from the Terminator.
So, Beth, first they came for InfoWars.
Yes.
And I did nothing because it was right and good and way overdue.
Right.
And quote unquote, they are private companies and can do what they want to.
Right. Yeah.
And I celebrated with my friend on our podcast.
So I wanted to tell you really quick about the Bilderberg group because I hadn't heard of this one. And I was like, I wanted to look up at least one of these to be like, all right, what is this? So the Bilderberg group is an annual conference established in 1954 by Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. And literally, like, their basic goal is to stop another world war from happening. Like, that's their goal. And they were
super shady.
Yeah, super, super shady. So the first one was so successful that they decided to make it an annual thing, and they do it every year. There is some secrecy about what they talk about, and that's where some conspiracy theories kind of pop up. But the participants are between 120 to 150 people composed of political leaders, experts from industry, finance, academia, and the media. And about 2/3 of the participants come from Europe and the rest from North America. About 1/3 of them are from politics and government and the rest from other fields. Basically, they go in and they talk and they have these meetings and they have like activities and goals. And their original goal was to promote Atlanticism, which is a strengthening of the U.S.-European relations, preventing another world war.
I bet their last meeting was real interesting.
Oh my gosh, I bet it was. But they've kind of grown and they want to bolster a consensus around the free market Western capitalism and its interests around the globe. And so it says those of us in I'm going to say Bilderberger. Those of us in Bilderberg felt we couldn't go on forever fighting one another for nothing and killing people and rendering millions homeless. So we felt that a single community throughout the world would be a good thing. They sound super fucking shady, right?
God, I hate those free market capitalists.
So apparently, when, so Alex Jones helped reveal the so-called Bilderberg group. I don't know how it's so called. It's literally a fucking group called the Bilderberg group. Right. And he didn't reveal anything. So on the Wikipedia page about it, there's a whole paragraph about criticisms and conspiracy theories. And it says, partly because of its working methods to ensure strict privacy, the Bilderberg group has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. The undisclosed nature of the proceedings gave rise to several conspiracy theories. This outlook has been popular on both extremes of the political spectrum, even though they disagree about the exact nature of the group's intentions. And then the other thing, so this is what made me laugh here. In 1994, there was a report called Right Woo's Left, published by the Political Research Associates. And this investigative journalist, Chip Bartlett, argued that right-wing populist conspiracy theories about the Bilderberg group date back to as early as 1964. Now, Alex Jones was born in 1974. So I'm not exactly sure how math works, but I don't think that he revealed anything. I don't know. What do you think, Elizabeth?
I don't know.
Is that a big reveal? I mean, in August of 2010, former Cuban President Fidel Castro wrote a controversial article for the Cuban Communist Party newspaper in which he cited this book called The Secrets of the Bilderberg Club.
Yeah, there's a book.
There's a book. Like, it's just made me laugh. It just made me laugh. But that's what that is. And you can look it up, and they meet every year at this hotel in the Netherlands, and there you go. That is discovering the truth.
Well, good times.
It is good times. All right. So we're glad that Alex Jones is going down. And I think...
well, don't count him out yet. It's just a Just a blip, just a bump in the road, I bet.
No, let's spread some cheer and say that he's not going to come back. And let's spread our jam. Are you ready to spread some jam with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Do you mind if I go first?
Well, you have to go first.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't have any jam to spread. I'm going to let you do all the jam spreading.
Oh, okay. All right. So my jam of the week is Taylor Swift's "We Are Never, Ever Getting Back Together." And I'm just putting it out there for YouTube to consider. Its relationship with Alex Jones is just over and done. And you were talking about earlier how they had the 3 strikes. First they took down a couple videos, and then there was a 30-day ban on some videos. And now they're at the complete ban. And if you listen to Taylor Swift's song, she's like, we were together, we broke up, we got back together, we broke up. And this is getting really hard and it's not worth it. And this is it. We are never, ever getting back together. Whee! And I think that's how all of these platforms need to consider Alex Jones.
I love that song. I think that video is just so much fun.
It's
so
fun.
Cute. Well, I kind of have a jam. I have recycled jam.
You know what? Bring it.
Because I thought that we could talk about the book that this whole episode reminded me of, called The Elephant in the Room.
That seems to be a legitimate thing to talk about with this episode.
By Jon Ronson, A Journey into the Trump Campaign and the Alt-Right. And Alex Jones plays a big role in that book. And then as you and I were talking about it, it occurred to me that I got the idea to read the book from Kelly in the previous episode when it was her jam.
Her and I need to create a list so that we can go back and see what we've recommended. That I think we're at that point now where we are kind of sometimes we're oh, have I already done this one? Or have I recommended this? We've done enough now that we're starting to get to the point where we're okay, I've gone through some of my favorites and now I might have to actually double check myself. So, but I think that this is just a good reminder about that book because it is very appropriate for this episode.
Yeah.
So you read it off of Kelly's recommendation.
Yeah, I did. And I just pulled up, I'm just going to read right from Jon Ronson's website. Okay. I'm just going to read the blurb for it because obviously he can describe it better than I can. So it's a 15,000 word Amazon Kindle single. So it's easy. It's easy peasy. Okay. Right? It's a quick read. And I am basically Alex Jones' Simon Cowell. I star spotted him in the late 1990s. He'd been a locally renowned radio talk show host in Austin, Texas back then, but I gave him the idea that catapulted him to fame. My idea was for the two of us to sneak into a secretive summer camp in the forests of Northern California called Bohemian Grove, where powerful men like George H.W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Henry Kissinger were rumored to undertake an annual ritual in which a human effigy was thrown into the fiery belly of a giant stone owl.
What?
And you know what? I'm going to stop right there. It's a little appetizer for you. Go check it out. It's awesome.
That's crazy. Okay. All right. So if you have enjoyed this episode, you can check us out on Twitter and Facebook at Podcast Fake News.
Until we get pulled.
Yeah.
Because there's no more liberty in the world.
Right.
Because we didn't say anything.
We are on YouTube as well. But we also have our blog at podcastfakenews.com. And you can email us any ideas or comments or suggestions or whatever you want. We love emails from our listeners. So podcastfakenews@gmail.com. Send us over. Tell Elizabeth what a great job she did today filling in for Kelly. And we'll appreciate that. And then head on over to Patreon and slip us $1, be a jelly of the month so that we can pay some bills around here and keep going. So Elizabeth, it was awesome to have you back.
It was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. And the next the next extremely dangerous conspiracy theorist of America that gets taken down, you should come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. You'll be
There's
like,
a couple out there.
you'll be like, oh crap, Glenn Beck just went down and I don't have time this week to record. Shoot. No. All right. Well, until next time, don't forget, bread jam.
Not lies.